Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I'm trying to remind myself to tell everybody when I start these videos, the very first video at least, every single day, I'm creating a playlist. If I do 2 videos, it'll have 2 videos in it. If I have 3 videos, it'll have 3 videos in it. And it will be in the description box of this video below. You click on that link, it'll take you to the playlist where you can start off in the first video and it will go through all 2 or 3 videos without you touching them. Fantastic. Before I get into this video though, again, I've read your comments on my Lindsey Williams summary. Jason, man, we don't come here for your religious views. We don't come here for you to rant on religion, etc. I think I've got it now. My friends, I am going to not, as best as I can, in all fairness, rant or crap on religion, no matter which one it is, etc. I have been known in the past to find an article on the Catholic Church, priest, pedophile, he got caught, and I report that as news. And boy, is it hard not to rant on religion when those things come up. But I heard you loud and clear. You don't want to hear that crap. You didn't come here for that, and I will respect that. So I'm done ranting about that stuff. I will try my best not to. However, bear with me if a little something like squeaks out on accident. You know, for example, maybe you know someone who just every other word of their mouth was F this or, you know, and they're like, you know what, I'm trying to change the way I talk. I'm going to stop cussing. And then you're talking to them again, and the little F-bomb slips out. You know, cut them some slack. So if a little rant comes out on accident, I will catch it, and I'll be like, oh, let me stop on my head. I'm a, what do you call this, like Alcohol Anonymous or rehab. I'm a religious ranting, I'm going to the religious ranting rehab center, and I just got turned loose. Okay, bear with me. All seriousness, I'm going to leave that stuff alone. I'm not going to rant anymore. Deliver my peeps the news. You asked for it. It's what you want. It's what you get. It's what my people want. So, tons of videos these days. I wake up sometimes in the morning, see what's going on. Not really much going on. I could find a video to talk about. By the end of the day, I done sent myself 4 or 5 things. And I'm not doing 4 or 5. I cannot do 4 or 5 videos in one day. Oh, nope, not happening. I'm picking 3 now, 2 to 3, and that's what I'm sticking with. I didn't realize that this bank, Monte Pacshi in Italy, was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. And it may, as far as I can tell, may have just received, or is about to, its first huge bailout in hundreds of years. So I would have to ask everybody, if that's the case, and from what I'm reading and I'm about to read you, I think that's the case, how is that real recovery working out for everybody? Like the world's oldest bank needs a bailout. And I didn't realize how old it was until I got a little email from the Sovereign Man. I've mentioned a few things from him from time to time. I get his little subscription newsletter. It's free, actually. I just signed up one day. I think he may have some other service possibly you can sign up for that's paid, financial advice kind of thing, or get to see what's in their portfolio. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But I just chose to sign up to get the newsletter, and I get it, and I listen to what he says. He's got some good stuff to say a lot of the times. He's always out of Santiago, Chile. He says in the late 1400s. I'm thinking 1400s. He must be referring to something else. And then he gets into it. Oh, no, it's that same bank? In the late 1400s, the city-states of Italy were among the most dominant powers in the world. Most of the city-states had abandoned the feudal system that persisted across Europe. So Italy was one of the only places on the continent where anyone, including foreigners, could work hard, take risks, and become wealthy. People could start businesses and even own private property. It was a revolutionary concept in the 1400s. Italy was truly the America of its day back then. And people from all over Europe flocked to the city-states in search of wealth and freedom. Scientific, medical, and technological advancement flourished, as did commerce and banking. The Medici Bank of Florence was by far the largest bank in Europe in the 1400s, and they helped popularize a double-entry system of accounting and the widespread use of credit, both of which still define modern banking. Early Renaissance banks realized that hauling giant bags of gold coins across the countryside to settle payments with one another was expensive and risky. Instead, every time they made or received a payment, the banks would adjust their accounting ledgers and then periodically get together to make sure everyone's numbers matched up. Italian banks perfected this technique and developed a comprehensive set of accounting rules that everyone followed. When the bank Monte di Pacchi di Siena, that's the one, founded in 1472, they adopted this system as well. What's interesting is that Monte di Pacchi still exists today, just barely, and they're basically still using the same system. Despite, it's been a while since I've had to say this, but I remember saying this a lot of times in some of my videos from a while back. And let me read what he says first. Despite all of our modern technology, commercial banking has changed very little over the past 500 years, 5 centuries. And I've said this before. I said, look, you mean to tell me we've gone from horse and buggy, or horse to horse and buggy, to steam engine trains, to airplanes, to automobiles with engines, not steam, gasoline, etc., to airplanes that flew or fly in the sky off gasoline, or now, aviation fuel, which turned into jet propulsion systems, etc. We had a rocket, you may have heard of it, called the space shuttle, went to outer space, etc. We've gone from walking or barely riding a horse to sending a vehicle with people on it into outer space. That's a hell of an achievement to say in a little over 100 years we've accomplished that, right? I mean, really, we have. If you really think about it, when was the airplane created, the first car? We've made incredible leaps and bounds in less than 100 years. But we're still practicing this ancient, rotten thing called fractional reserve lending, banking, accounting entries on a book. Did you actually create the money? No, I just put a ledger on here. Made a ledger adjustment. So it says, even today, when banks transact with one another, they're merely making accounting entries in their ledgers. It's not like there's actually any money that changes hands. Banks don't FedEx cash or coin to one another to settle up. It's all just digits on an electronic balance sheet. The biggest advance in modern banking has been the involvement of government central banks. So he goes on with a little bit more of this. I just wanted to briefly tell you about this part, that this bank has been around for hundreds of years, which is insane. It's still available. It's still working. It's the same bank, but it's on life support. And now, during the greatest recovery we've ever seen, it needs help. Help. I need somebody. Help. I need somebody. How about a bailout because they couldn't raise the $5 billion they needed in the private sector? You know how much they raised? Ready for this? $500 million. We needed $5 billion. We were able to raise $500 million. And on that note, cue the government bailout sound. So the first article I saw from Zero Hedge covering this talked about the Monte Pacchi crashes to all-time low. The stock rebounds after government agrees to fund bank bailouts. In early European trading, shares of Italy's third largest and most troubled bank were halted after crashing 17%, dropping to fresh all-time lows after the bank warned it is not only insolvent, but its liquidity could run out far sooner than expected. Unexpectedly, breaking news, Monte Pacchi unexpectedly ran out of... Oh, no. As I always tell you, it's always been expected. It's always expected and was expected. But when it's time for the news to come out, unexpectedly, that's like looking outside. And remember the movie The Never-Ending Story? Never-Ending Story. The little dog thing looked like, half dog, half dragon. Falcor. And they're running from these giant storm clouds of death, the nothing. If you know that movie, you know what I'm talking about. This was the darkest, stormiest thing you've ever seen in your life. Could you imagine seeing that outside your house? Unexpectedly, it's going to rain today. Well, we're expecting sunshine. Unexpectedly, it started raining. And you're looking over there at the weatherman. What the hell? Did you not see the nothing coming? This isn't a rainstorm. This isn't a hurricane. This is the nothing. What do you mean you unexpectedly rained? Of course it rained, and it swallowed up the earth and anything in existence in its path. For goodness sakes. Unexpectedly. Get out of here. BMPS shares initially dropped following yesterday's news that the $5 billion private sector rescue plan appeared to be a dead end after only getting $500 million in new capital. So the world's oldest bank said it now expected its net liquidity position, currently standing at $10.6 billion, to turn negative after 4 months. This was a sharp deterioration from the most recent liquidity update. Just 3 days, not years, not months, not even weeks. 3 days prior. Yeah, it's looking like it's going to happen a little sooner. When's the last time you guys checked? 3 days ago. And it's changed that drastically? Yeah, that old chestnut. And then they have an updated article. Italy to nationalize. There you go. Here we go. Bailout, i.e. nationalize. We bail you out, but so the taxpayers don't get absolutely infuriated with us, we're going to quote unquote nationalize the bank. Italy to nationalize Monte Pacshi after private sector rescue fails. I find this amazing. Webbot said, stop looking over at Greece and everyone. You need to start paying attention to this new thing called Italy. They're going to have some serious banking crises heading our way in the very near future. I haven't really heard about Italy in the news so much. Oh, Webbot said, it's coming. I think this might be a Webbot hit, if I don't mind saying so. Update, the Financial Times writes that the Italian government set to take a stake between 50 and 70% in Monte di Paschi, up from its current, it already has a slice already to help out, 4%. And you know what they were saying when it was 4%? It's just 4%. The bank needs a little bit of help. It's fine. They're liquid. No sweat. They're good. No liquidity issues. So now 4% stake has turned into somewhere, and then we don't know yet, 50 to 70%. Effectively making that bank the government, okay? I wonder if there's going to be any golden parachutes for any of the upper management of the bank, like they did here. You get to walk out with $100 million. Wait a minute, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, didn't you guys collapse? And yeah, kind of. Government took over. You get to walk out with $100 million golden parachute. You did such a great job. So you give someone $100 million for epically failing. That's a big 10 for. Why is that? Jason at 4, you know why. These are our club members. We gave them these positions to begin with, not because they're qualified. They're the furthest thing from qualified. We know this. But they're our buddies. We give them these great positions, let them make tons of money, make horrible decisions so they can make tons of money. And then when they leave, we give them tons of money at your expense. Sorry, Elite, got out of line, forgot. Thanks for reminding me. It remains to be seen. Well, first of all, 50 to 70% stake, up from its current 4% stake, as part of the government's third bailout. And remember the previous tiny, little small, here's a little nugget. Here you go, come here, boy. Monty. Here, little nugget. Here's $1 billion. Here's 500 mil. Here's a couple billion. Here you go. Now we need to open the floodgates. We're going to have to take a lot bigger position on you. 4% stake? Nah, not good enough. We need 50. The old saying, go big or go home. It's not because we want to go big and be a show-off. It's because we have to go big. You guys are so insolvent, there would be a new word needed to describe what you guys are looking at your balance sheet. Not the cooked books, the real books. So we're going to take somewhere between 50 and 70%. And I could imagine, I can think of this right now, it's hitting me right now. Imagine if they say we decide to go 80%. 50, 70, not enough. We're going 80. Going big. Financial Times adds, the government rescue, which had long been resisted in Rome, is designed to draw a line under the slow burn crisis in Italian banking that has alarmed investors and become the main source of concern for European financial regulators. It remains to be seen if Germany, long a critic of state bailouts, will be as agreeable. Meanwhile, Pier Carlo Padoan, the Italian finance minister, insisted that apart from a few critical situations, Italy's banking system was, solid and healthy. He vowed to minimize, if not erase, any impact of the public intervention on the savings of ordinary citizens. So he vowed to minimize, if not erase. Then why can't you say, I will erase? Keyword, remember, listen to their buzzwords. He vowed to minimize, so minimal damage, any impact of the public intervention on the savings of ordinary citizens. So what we're about to do may impact savings of ordinary citizens, but I'm going to try to make it as minimal as possible, if not anything at all, erase it all. You can't have both. You can't say it'll be a minimal impact or there'll be no impact. You know in advance if there's going to be an impact. And if you're talking like that, there's going to be an impact. The third bailout and re-nationalization of Italy's third largest bank is imminent following a Reuters report that the ongoing JP Morgan-led attempt to execute a complex private sector bailout of Monte Pacshi has failed. According to Reuters, Qatar, however you pronounce that damn country, I can't stand seeing that name and saying it. Qatar, and it's pronounced like Qatar. It looks like Qatar, doesn't it? According to Reuters, Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund, long considered as the most likely anchor investor with a €1 billion allocation in any rescue plan cash call, decided it is unwilling to invest in the Italian bank. Meanwhile, Monte Pacshi has been unable to find a replacement investor willing to put the money in its privately funded rescue plan less than 24 hours before the offer ends. As a result, the bank entire share sale, which closes at 2 p.m. on Thursday, has drawn very little interest from the wider investment community. As laid out previously, the bank needs to raise $5 billion by the end of the month, this month that is, to avert being wound down. The Italian government, which earlier today got a green light to issue $20 billion in public debt to use for bank bailout purposes, is expected to step in this week and nationalize the bank. Now notice what that said. The bank needs $5 billion. If we could raise $5 billion, we're okay. But the Italian government, which earlier today got a green light to issue $20 billion, 4 times that amount, in public debt to use for bank bailout purposes. So not just Monte Pacshi. No, bank bailout purposes, plural. Is expected to step in this week and nationalize the bank. The approval came after the European Central Bank refused to extend a deadline on a $5 billion or euro recapitalization before the end of the year, and fears mounted the lender's liquidity levels were becoming unsustainable. MPS has lost 14 billion euros, or 11% of its total deposits from January to September 2016, and warned its liquidity provision would fall under the required levels should it suffer another $10 billion of deposit outflows under a stress scenario calculated by the ECB. The news sent the stock plunging to record lows shortly before the government agreed to let taxpayers shoulder, again, of course, the burden of yet another bailout. Third one for this particular bank. Of the insolvent bank. In addition to Monte Pacshi, other banks, here we go, other banks expected to benefit from Italy's imminent state aid include Veneto Banca, Popular Vicenza, and Cassa di Cesena, Cassa di Rimini, and Cassa di San Miniato. In addition to the new capital injection by the government, it is unclear what the bail-in terms of the rescue will be. While reported by Messengero earlier said that the planned government bank aid won't hurt depositors because funds will be given under EU's precautionary recapitalization plans. It is likely that at least some of the bondholders will be impaired. The Italian newspaper said that holders of shares and bonds in banks affected to face soft burden sharing by having to participate in conversion of subordinated bonds into shares. As shown previously, Italy is unique in that the vast majority of bail-inable debt on bank balance sheets is held by domestic retail investors. The terms of their impairment may determine the longevity of the brand new Italian government. There is another problem. In the past, both Angela Merkel and Schäuble, not to mention, I don't know how to pronounce that name, have made it expressly clear that a bail-in mechanism should be used to preserve insolvent banks, and a state-funded and taxpayer-backed bailout/nationalization is no longer permitted. Allowing Italy to proceed with this transaction would make a mockery of Europe's entire bail-in protocol, not to mention the European finance ministers' resolve and ability to implement anything, which is why European Commission would need to assess whether the government's intervention is taking place at market prices or if it constitutes state aid. All eyes on Italy. Webback called this well in advance, and now it's here in our faces. And again, I can't stand to see this or read this, knowing this, the pension things too, everything else I'm telling you about. And then you look over here to the right, stock market's about to touch the 20,000 Dow, S&P up, all-time highs, Dow Jones, all-time highs. All the markets practically, except some of the banking stocks, all-time highs. Some of the banks are actually doing well too, as much crazy as that sounds. Then again, you can make anything look good until you have to, everything looks fantastic till you look at the books. Okay? Everything looks great until you look at the books. It's kind of like being on an airplane. You don't even have kind of enough gas to get, fuel to get where you need to go. But you don't tell anybody on the plane that. You're letting them know we are going on vacation. We're going to be landing in 3 hours. Party back there like it's 1999, because it is. And then someone comes up and looks at the gas gauge. Excuse me, is that accurate? Yeah, it is. We don't have enough gas to get there. Yeah, just don't tell anybody else. Don't sweat it. And you would say, well, why did we even get off the air and get it far enough out we can't turn around and park land? We're at the point, we were past the point of no return now. We go down we can turn around and still land in the ocean. We're dead. I mean, who's in charge? Well, I'm the captain. What are your qualifications? Well, I went to Harvard, went to Yale, member of the Skull and Bones Secret Society. But you appear to be the least qualified person to fly this plane, to pilot this plane. No, I'm qualified. And then what happens? Plane crashes, everyone dies. Yeah, incompetence. What a shame. Had an incompetent pilot, Yeah, we know. Anyways, take care.